Hello everyone. Now the MG4 that's just beside me here is easily one of the most impressive cars I've driven this year. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about its practicality, the interior, and what it's like to drive. And we're going to talk about why it's probably going to give the Volkswagen ID.3, its closest electric rival, a bit of a headache when sales really kick off. And we're going to do something nobody else has done yet with one of these MG4s, because I think it's its best feature and But first, let's talk about the basics of this car. Let's run through the key things that most people are going to think about in it. Now, I am actually quite a big fan of the design. I think it looks quite nice, a bit fussy at the rear, but overall, good looking machine. I think the interior is a really, really big plus point of this car. In fact, I think it's one of the nicest interiors I've sat in all year, and I genuinely mean that. It's really simple, the design and the layout is nice, the materials feel good, everything you touch, steering wheel included, feels really good and really high quality. There are a few scratchier plastics lower down. There's a slidey cover over the cup holder section down there and a few other parts that are a bit scratchier, but come on, this is a cheap car. Let's remember this car starts from just over £25,000, and in the specification we have it in here, it's actually £31,500, which is still, crucially, about 5k less than the starting price for its main rival, the Volkswagen ID.3. We'll come back to that in a moment, but to pick up on the interior again, even the infotainment screen, even the gear selector and where the buttons are placed, everything is actually nice to use. I will say that the infotainment screen can be a bit hesitant at times, but otherwise, very nice place to be inside this car. Same goes for the back. I sat in it earlier and there's good headroom and good knee room. It's a really quite spacious machine actually. I don't think it's quite as large as that ID.3, but it's really close. And same goes for the boot as well. The boot is big enough, certainly for small families and certainly for couples. It's spacious and you've got a small amount of storage area just underneath the floor as well. It's very thin, but there is some space there. So the basics of this car, in terms of functionality as a medium-sized hatchback, good thing, and I really do like it. Now, for those of you who remember the MG brand from its previous years, back when it was truly a British brand and before Shanghai Automotive got the keys to it, you might remember that the trophy models were often slightly sportier, and this is a trophy model. That's why it starts at over 30k, but it means it comes with a lot of extra kit. You get a full climate control system, it's got a lot of safety kit on it, and the fit and finish on the interior is a bit higher. There's part leather seats and it just generally feels a bit more premium. It means you've got the alloy wheels on the outside, which do have aerodynamic covers on them, so they look like hubcaps, but they are alloys underneath, I've checked. And overall, it just means this car, not only does it undercut the ID.3 by £5,000, but it feels in no way lacking in what it offers compared to that car. It really has taken this segment by storm, I think. It rides nicely as well. I mean, it's got passive suspension, so you can't adjust it through modes like you can in the higher versions of that Volkswagen. It means you've got the same settings the whole way, but it rides over potholes and big bumps and ruts really nicely. It's a bit fidgety and it can sort of jiggle over some speed humps, but overall, and over big bumps and undulations, it rides really nicely. And on the motorway as well, it settles down into a cruise and you feel very, very comfortable in it. 200 horsepower is produced by this rear motor setup. It means it's rear wheel drive, which we'll get onto in a little bit, why that's quite interesting. And it's quite punchy. It's not quite as punchy as the ID.3, admittedly, but it's more than enough. It gets up to speed, gets up to motorway speed, no problem whatsoever. And when you put it into sport mode, it even gives you a bit of a push into your seat. You actually feel almost like you're in a sporty hatchback. I think the steering as well is one of the best things in this car. It's got a pretty reactive steering rack. There's no dead feel around center, but yet it also doesn't feel overly energetic on the motorway. So it feels like it's been designed by people who like driving, and that's doubled down by the fact that the seating position in this car is really good. The battery in this car is thinner than most of its rivals. The technology that Shanghai Automotive has enables them to have a really thin battery. So all of the seats in this car sit lower than they would do in your average hatchback of this type. So you feel quite sporting. Good visibility around as well, big door mirrors, good visibility out the back, and as I mentioned, you've got a reversing camera. I'm trying to think of bad things to say about this car really. Anything that's bad is really just that it doesn't have posh materials anywhere, but for the price, you can't expect that. And do you know what? I've really enjoyed driving this car, whether it's been on the motorway in town or whether it's been on the B roads that we're on now. It rides, steers, and just drives really nicely. not overly exciting, but it handles nice. In fact, I think it might be the best handling hatchback that you can buy for a reasonable price when it comes to electric cars. And I don't just have to say that and leave you wondering, well, prove it. We can prove it, because we've got Rockingham Raceway just over there. Yes, of course, I had to come down to Rockingham. We were shooting down the road, but genuinely, we've got good reason. This MG4 is a good handling car. And now, because this is the trophy specification car, it's got a slightly bigger battery. It's got a 61 kilowatt hour battery. It does 0 to 62 miles per hour in 7.9 seconds, tops out at 100, and well, it's pretty quick, it's pretty nippy. But genuinely, the steering is really nice. You can turn the car in and the car feels really reactive on the front, and even at medium pace, it just feels like so eager to turn in. And then because you have rear wheel drive, then if you start to feed in the power, car's sliding around on me, I'm not trying to do that, I'm trying to behave. And if you try and feed in the power while you're in mid-corner, you genuinely get this lovely sense of just neutral balance through the corner, even if you're just driving smoothly. So that means if you arrive in a corner a little bit too quickly, or if you are deliberately trying to continue momentum through some bends to have some fun, not only are you going to make that corner, you're not going to be like, oh no, we're going to understeer wide. Not only will you make that corner, but you'll do so in a way where the car feels completely happy with it and totally content, totally under control. Now, of course, there are driving modes in this car, and you can actually switch around. Interestingly, and I think this is a little signal of intent. The driving modes allow you, the driving modes allow you to not only play with the power, so you can have a faster accelerator response if you put it into sport mode, but they also allow you to tweak other things. You've got your steering resistance, and then also the way the car regens, etc., etc. There's a few other things you can do. Now that's not normal in this category of car. Normally it's just normal, and maybe you get a sport mode, which isn't really a sport mode. This car, it kind of is. The only negative is it won't let you turn all of the stability control systems off. In fact, it won't let you turn them off at all. But there is a bit of a looseness to the way that they restrict what you can do, and now I can demonstrate that with this lovely corner here. If I tip it in here, the car is doing a bit of a four-wheel drift. I hope you picked it up on the other camera there. I was four-wheel drifting through a bend in an MG4. In this MG4, especially in sport mode, you're allowed, and I think especially if you've got your foot on the power, as I often have through these moments, I think there's something in the system which says, well, they obviously want to have a bit of fun.
So, as you can probably tell, I'm pretty smitten with the MG4, and that's in the sensible family-focused spec. But next year, we're set to be given an all-wheel drive 450 horsepower version, which, so long as they loosen the range of its stability control system a bit, could be an absolute corker. And dare I say it, a strong contender for our fast lap track record. Now, wouldn't that be something? Best get subscribing to our channel so you don't miss that. See you soon.